Hey guys, welcome back. Joe here again from ScaleFreak.com, coming to bring you another build or another video in the build series of the Sakura D4 rear-wheel drive drift car. This one here, we're going to go through bag number 4, which will finish up our rear end, and also add our steering linkages or our steering system to the front. But check out the video for the step-by-step. And we're back now for the bag 4 build. This one here, we're going to be doing the upper linkage, and we're also going to be doing pretty much the whole back section when it comes to getting everything all set up. And of course, we have steering linkage and stuff like that in here as well. This is, how do I say this in the best way possible? Building links are not my favorite thing in the whole wide world, but it is a part, right? It's almost like building shocks. I also like building shocks until the moment I actually have to, and then at that point I'm like, oh, I have to build shocks. But that's because as an old racer, you have to build shocks a lot. But that's fine. So let's go through here. Again, tools for the job on this one. Make sure you got your magnetic parts mats here. You're going to want to have a nice sharp hobby knife. And for building links, I also like to have, where are you in here? Get out of here. I also like to have some grease around. So got this bad boy here, the Utter Butter. Kind of a bit of a trick that I learned a long time ago. Used to use chapstick and stuff like that, but I prefer to use the Utter Butter now. Now, as well, you'll notice in the bag or in your box, there will be an unmarked bag. What that is the actual, a neat little set of pliers that they send you, as well as a couple tools that are very, very handy at steps like these. First, we're gonna build the pliers. Again, this is pretty neat that there's actually a couple neat little tools that will just help you with your build, and they include them for you to build them. Like, come on, how neat is that? So just gonna snap this off, and then literally, I'm serious, they're pliers. So you're gonna go together just like that. You of course will have a spacer in between because you can't rub plastic against plastic without wearing it all out. And then on the one side, you're gonna put in a hex. Ta-da, like this. Just get it pressed in there somehow. There we go. And then you have this little guy here. Get in there. So, ta-da. Get in there. I said ta-da. It is plastic and you're sliding metal through it, so sometimes it can be a little tough. There we go. Tough to get it in. Add the little washer in between. Throw the other side like so. And then you've got this washer on the front and a countersunk screw. Get your 2 mil, and you've got a tool making a tool. I'm talking about the 2 mil wrench, not me. Although I guess this is a tool with a tool making a tool. And ta-da! So literally, you've made yourself a little set of pliers. It really does help a lot with building the links. To have this little set of pliers. So it's a neat setup from Sakura. They've added it into the box, comes with it. That's pretty cool. But the second thing that's also really cool is this wrench right here. This helps a lot when building the links, because that will actually help you get the ends on, and it gets them on really, really well. And I'll show you exactly how that is used and how that's set up. So getting all these things open, again, I just get rid of the plastic bags. Now, in building the other kit, I know that you do not use all of these links, so there will be a couple that are left over. Take a few of the parts that you know you're not using at this step and just kind of push them out of the way a little bit. Got some hexes and stuff because that's going to build the rear end. And of course, this is kind of a whole link kit for most of the setup, so let's kind of go. But basically, what I wanted to show you was this here. So if I take one of these guys and pop it off the ring, this actually fits directly into the end of here. So you can actually use this, which is a bigger piece, in your hand to help build it. Just a really neat setup. This is something I'm going to check to see if it works in other kits that I have. I want to keep this tool. So awesome. Now, when you're building the links, kind of one of the tips that I also always had with the racing was make sure you're pointing these things in the same direction when you build them. Even though they're going to go on different sides of the kit, these are threaded different directions. So one will be threaded on this way, one will be threaded on this way. So literally, if you crank the one in the middle, it will either extend or shrink. So you always want to make sure that they are put the same way. So, you know, if it's to the left on the left side, you put it to the left on the right side as well, so that you know that adjusting it down will lengthen and adjusting it up will shrink it. It's just a good rule to go with. And again, what you'll need for this one as well is this bad boy, because these links here need to be the length of 26.5 millimeters. So of course, just use this here, 26.5, well, 26.49, close enough for me, and then lock it down. And what you're gonna do is, well, I'll save the grease right now. Basically, put the link end in the tool, just like, get in there. There we go, right like that. And then grab this little boy here and start to thread it in. Slowly at first, because you don't want to cross thread it. But then once you start to get it a little bit, just grab your cool little set of Sakura pliers here, hang on, and just keep going. Now remember, you are creating heat here, so you do not need to crank this thing down. One thing I've learned from my days of making links is that you can continue to turn until it pushes the actual threaded bar directly through the ball cup. So I put that in, and now I'm going to unscrew it. And the reason being is because that's going to be very hot on the inside now, and I really want to put the grease in there as well, but I want to give this a moment to cool down now that I have it threaded. So we'll just pull it off and let it sit there. I know now that this is going to go on the one side, so then I'm going to grab myself another one. I'm actually going to put this to the left. So I know this is going to go on the left side of it. So then I'm going to make sure that I put this part to the left, so I know that those two are matched. And now I'm going to do it with the other side as well. Make sure it starts to thread on. 1 second here, I just have to see up close. There we go. Make sure you turn it the right direction. You could sit there all day spinning it the wrong way if you wanted to. And again, crank it on. And I put it all the way down. I mean, I'm not going to crank it until it's going to damage the link, but I put it all the way down to make sure I thread it all correctly the first time. It's going to help me a lot later when it comes to adjustments in the future if I have to make any changes while I'm running it. So now what I'm going to do is, let's see here, just kind of put that like that. So now I know that this side is on the short end and this side is on the long end. Now, let me just grab a rag, because I don't want to start working with grease unless I have something to wipe my fingers back off again. I've learned that lesson how many times now. So now a little bit of grease is all you need. Again, another thing that I've used in the past is chapstick. So basically a little touch on the thread is it. And the idea behind this is you're not looking to grease this so it moves. You're just looking to make it so that later on, somewhere down the road, if you ever need to adjust this, it will be a little freer to adjust. So we're going to hold that in the center and use the tool to crank it back down again. Now the second time you do this with the grease on there, you'll find it is actually much easier to turn. That's a good thing, because later on, if you ever have to make adjustments, it will be nice and easy to go. Much easier to adjust, and it won't stick. And because that's what you don't want, right? With ball cups, anybody who's raced some of the old associated stuff knows that when you put enough pressure to try to adjust a ball cup, it'll just pop off the end, and everything you were trying to do is counterproductive because you're damaging everything, and then you have to replace it or upgrade it to the TC6 stuff. So we got that done like that. Now, the instructions show that this needs to be both of the cups pointing in the same direction. Boom, like that. And then, of course, you need to get this guy to do the center. So I need this to be 26.5, and I am almost there. I'm pretty much just going to back off this one side, probably one turn. Oops. So one full turn, and that should give me about what I need. Bingo! that was perfect. So I got that set like that. So you adjust it to make sure it's done like that. Make sure both are pointing directly down. That will help later with the suspension geometry itself. Now you don't need to see how the second one's made because, I mean, it's the exact same way as that. So I'm just gonna set that off to the side for a moment. Now we're gonna move into how to actually create the back drive setup, I guess, itself. So we are going to take one of the rear hubs. Make sure you get the hobby knife to just kind of trim this up a little tiny bit there. Perfect. This rear hub here, let me see, will be, make sure it's all, there we go, trimmed up real nice. Now, when you look through all the parts that you've got here, what you're looking for is the ball studs. So there'll be a couple of those in here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so first we're gonna do is screw one into the top. So grab your 2 mil. Where's my 2 mil? There it is. Hold this bad boy in the correct direction. This is gonna be the right side. So you're going to put this on the top section here first. Careful when you're screwing into plastic. Sometimes it does try to cross thread. I just kind of noticed that when I started to put this one in, it tried, and I stopped it. Okay, so we got that top one in there. Now, of course, what's next is the actual drive. Put the bearing. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4 bearings. Actually, there's 5, but, oh, sorry, 6, but 4 of them are the same size. So put the one on the inside like that. Slam that sucker on the inside there. Make sure it seats in nice, and then you'll get some spin on it. And then, of course, I like to just pull this out and throw the other bearing in the other side. It's easier to do it that way without this in there. Put it in, make sure it rolls nice and smooth. Just, ooh, nice. Now you'll find in here a drive pin as well. Just put your drive pin in. Now, here's another tip, something that I like to do. If you take a little dab of grease and you put it where the pin's supposed to go, you'll be less likely that when you put the pin in, that it'll fall out. The grease will help it stick there. It'll also help the hex stick on later if you pull your wheel off and it tries to come with it. So clean the hex up because later on you're going to get a wheel on there. And then, of course, just take the hex, pop it on like that. So that's exactly what it looks like. Oh, almost threw that. That would have been awesome. So easy enough, right? So now what we're going to do, I'm just going to shift this out of the way a little bit because some of this stuff is for the left and the right. Right now we're just doing the one side. Just kind of put everything out of the way. So what we've built right now so far is the right side. So it's going to fit on just like this. Get this link out of here for one moment. Now you'll see it just slips in really, really nice, but what's going to hold that thing in there? Well, first you have to slide in the bottom, which is this little guy. And you'll notice on this little bar here, it's actually got a notch in the center. Now what's neat about that is slide this thing through. Now if you've built any of the old race kits, you'll know that sometimes it's got a capture screw setup where it goes on the inside and the outside. But on this one here, the capture screw is actually in the side right there. So what you're looking for is one of the little grub screws that come with it. Grab your 1.5 and screw it into the end right here. This is a great setup. I like how this works because what it's going to do is it's going to sink in to that center notch and bang, it's not coming out. You're not going to lose that thing, and it's a lot less hardware to worry about, and it's a lot harder to strip that section. So you've got that set up there. Now, of course, that's how that's done, but now you have to get that top link put on. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this up so that, remember how I told you how I'm going to set these things up, because there is that little guy right here. I'm going to make sure that's pointing to the left of the kit. That way when I build the other side as well, it'll be even. That way I'll know exactly how to adjust it. And of course for these, just slam them down. Now I will tell you, these ball cups are tight, like in the best way possible. So you've got to get some significant force down on that to get it in there, which is an amazing thing because that means later on, it's not just going to pop off. So boom, just like that, you've got that right side on. So now you're going to see it's going to start to roll when I spin the wheel. So you've got that drive system in there. And you can see how exactly that's set up. This guy here holds in the bottom pin. That holds on the top link. And of course you can adjust this here using the provided wrench. That's actually cool too. They give you the wrenches and stuff like that to adjust all this. So you can adjust the camber of the back wheel. Super awesome setup. I love how easy they make this to do it. So give me 1 second. I'm just going to go through, build the second link, put the right side on, or sorry, the left side on. Now with the backs of both installed, you can see exactly how it's set up. So I made sure the links are in the proper setup so that I can turn them in each direction. They're set up, the hexes are on, the pins are in, and I've got some play in the suspension. Later on, the springs will go on as well. This is a good time also to check out on the back to see whether or not your droop is level or not. I sometimes do it later. You can get some droop tools to figure out if it's exactly correct. And I'll probably borrow those later just to make sure. But now we move on to the next step, which is the steering. So look at all those extra parts. That's all for steering. Let me just put this here. So again, get these out, clean these up a little bit. This is, again, another neat setup. I cannot believe the amount of steering that this kit has with as tiny little adjustments to the servo. It's absolutely fascinating, actually. So what we're going to do now is kind of like mock it up on the kit itself. You kind of take a look. So let's see here. The servo will be on that side. The other side will be here. And of course, the link is going to go in between like that. That's kind of the way it's going to set up. Of course, you have these posts that are going to go through. You have these, they're going to go onto the ends. Ball studs, of course, will go into those. Sometimes it's actually a neat idea just to kind of visualize how everything is going to go together. Let me see here. We've got the top of the posts. We have, let me see, the hi-hats that are going to go inside the posts like that. There's these tiny little shims. Just watch for them in the bag. These are the kind of parts that when they're on your magnetic pit mat, sometimes it can be a little difficult to get them back off again. But keep a piece of a nail around or something small to be able to get into it. You'll be fine. And then of course there are 4 little bearings here as well, so make sure that those make it in. So basically what's going to happen is you kind of bottom load it, right? So pop that sucker up. First bearing goes on. These fit on nice and snug. So here's what I'm doing, right? We've got the post, the bearing goes on. Then we toss on the actual plastic piece itself. And that will fit on there because the bearing will fit inside. Then the top bearing plugs it up. So that fits in nice and snug. So now it'll have something to pivot on. And then now we have to throw in, where did it go? That little tiny washer. There we go, goes on the top of that. And then we have this little pink spacer here. That goes on like that. And then we need to find a 6mm countersunk screw, which is just like everything we've been using on the chassis so far. So of course, that is going to go with a little bit of thread lock on the top. Now, as a heads up, when you try to screw this thing in, the bottom will spin. So hold the bottom and then grab your tire wrench, throw it on the bottom like this, and then just finish tightening it. That way it's on the top nice and snug. So that spacer and stuff like that, and the way those bearings are, it's not going to crank this thing down so that it can't turn. So you can crank it down nice and tight so that it will work exactly how it's supposed to. And of course, replicate it on the second one, right? So first the peg, then the bearing. When you put the bearing on this part, try to get it to go on as straight as possible, because of course, if it's metal and metal, so if it starts to go on kind of sideways, it's a gigantic pain to try to get it out. So there's that top bearing. Get in there, get in there. Press it in. Then of course, little tiny spacer. Then on the top. And then of course, your 6mm countersunk screw with your thread lock. on the top with your wheel wrench. Ta-da, done. So that's that part done. Those are the ones that are actually going to connect to the chassis itself. Now it's time to get the linkage in between. So those top hats just fit snug into the bottom. That is going to connect, let's see here, on the internal hole. See this guy here? That hole right there. And then you're going to get yourself a 8 mil. There we go. There's only a couple of them there, so it's not hard to point out which one it is. And then you crank it down. Now that top hat that's in there should give you enough, that's the word I'm looking for, enough meat to screw down onto so that this will still go freely without crushing it. It's into plastic, so it's not going to back off too easy, so you don't have to like force it and just reef it down, because remember, servos are going to take a lot of stress over a short period of time. So make sure that your steering setup is as free moving as possible. So of course we're just going to throw the screw into the second one here. Just mimic it, like mirror it from the other side, so you'll know there'll be that one smaller hole. And then boom, that's it. So you can see here it's really easy to go. They go like this, and then the whole thing just moves back and forth. It's amazing how much steering this kit has. So then these guys here are kind of like extended Ackerman arms. You're going to pull out these little 6 mils here. And what these are going to do is they're going to literally extend it even further that the steering goes. Super easy to put in. Put it through. It only really goes in one spot, so you can't really screw this part up. So crank down the one. And then the other. And then you'll actually notice that there's 2 threaded spots, 2 threaded holes on each one of these pink parts. That's actually for the ball stud for the end of the steering. And for as much throw as you want, maximum amount of throw, you're putting the ball stud on the end. So I'll show you here again. Put your 2 mil, a little bit of Loctite, and put this in there like this. So it sets up like that. Just 1 second here. Remember, metal into plastic, so don't just destroy it. Tighten it down, but don't destroy it. But when you're doing metal into metal, thread lock. So there. That's how the steering setup is done. So they sit like this, and then just a little bit of steering throw, and they throw out like crazy, which is amazing exactly how much throw these things actually have. And as you see here, I just have a couple screws left. So what I'm doing now, I'm almost running out of Loctite, so hold on. A little bit more. This is going to go on the front of the chassis. Get your knife out of the way. Now you'll see here there'll be 2 holes that it'll line up against right behind the front mounts for the shock towers or for the hinge pins, and it just sits in just like that. Now flip it over. Just hold one. I hold the one like this, and I flip it over, and I've got it lined up. Bingo. So you can kind of see on the bottom. Maybe not, because I'm holding it at an angle. It'll go in there. Get it on the end of your 2 mil. This is going into metal, and it will vibrate, so a little bit of Loctite. And get that screw in there. There you go, there's one. Now when you got the one in there, you can actually just let go of the kit, because that whole setup is all cranked in. It's not going to go too far. You can line it up by eye and screw it down. Ta-da! So let's check this out. With almost no movement, watch how much throw you get. That is absolutely huge. And I know it doesn't seem like much now, but wait until I get a steering setup on this thing. Where do you see how very tiny, tiny little bit of movement it actually creates with the servo itself? And it'll throw huge, which is phenomenal how much movement this thing has. So that is the end of bag 4, basically getting the rest of that rear end set up, and of course getting the steering set on the front and getting us ready to be able to finish the front arms. Basically, again, this kit is really starting to come together, and now you've got some neat new tools to use. There will be some more links to build, and yay, that's my favorite. And then of course we'll eventually get onto the shocks. So again, please guys, head over to the RC Mart to check out this kit. There's a 2-wheel drive model and a 4-wheel drive of the Sakura D4. Go check it out. This thing is absolutely a fantastic rear-wheel drifter. I have not seen the all-wheel drifter yet, but I know that the C3 model was absolutely phenomenal as well. And of course, as always, please click the like, subscribe, share this throughout your community, and of course, comment below. Thanks for watching, guys.